Hello and welcome to the second edition of Library of the Week. This is part of a series of articles that I write on Medium, and I actually use these videos to support those articles. You can find the link to the Medium article in the description of the video. Today we will be talking about PYPINFO. This is a small project, a small library that lets us get statistics from downloads of all the packages from PyPy. The particularity of PyPinfo is that you can do this from the command line, and I personally use it to do this series, Library of the Week. I do statistics about the different libraries that I talk about. Accessing it from the command line is particularly convenient, especially if you, like me, use Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebooks, because you can access command line interface from code blocks. I will show you this in a second. PyPinfo can be installed using PyPy as usual, and the documentation will be found both in the PyPy page and on the GitHub page of the project. One very important thing to know before we continue is that what PyPinfo does is actually making queries to a BigQuery, Google BigQuery database, and this is actually a paying service. Now, the first terabyte of data is free per month, so if you only use BigQuery to query the database with the PyPy information, you can probably do a few hundred queries a month. After that, each additional terabyte is about $5. Obviously, this might evolve, so be sure to check what the pricing is. But yeah, in my case, I am not worried. I don't pay for this, and I don't query it very often. I use it to make my libraries of the week reports and statistics, so that's mostly it. And we will be seeing later how to actually make all the installations so it works properly on your computer. PyPinfo is maintained by Ofek Lev. As you can see, this person has quite a few projects. You can find more information about him in his personal website. He works as a senior software engineer for Datadog. So if you want to know more about him and about his projects, make sure to check his awesome personal website. And as opposed as many other libraries that we will be seeing in this series, or the one we saw in the first week, which was Pandas, this is not the kind of project that calls for a big community. This is more a single purpose, small library that does well what it has to do well. As pros and cons and alternatives, I would say that the main pro is the fact of being able to have this information from the command line interface and being able to query it directly from a notebook. For me, this is a big advantage. The cons would be that it is a bit painful, not very painful, but a bit painful to install, and the fact that this is somehow paying service. So in my case, I don't pay, but if you are already a user or a customer of Google BigQuery, this might impact your billing. Although it doesn't look very expensive, you have to expect about 2 gigabytes of data per query. This is more or less what I have been getting. And as alternatives, you mostly have a lot of websites that do this task. They are free, that is a very big advantage to them, and they usually can display more complete statistics. My favorite one would be PyPy, and as you can see with PyPy, when I display information about pandas, I have a lot of data about it, and I can even create badges. This would be great if I have my own project hosted, or not hosted, but referenced in PyPy. I could put a badge on my GitHub repo, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. But I personally stick to my CLI tool because it is quicker, and for the use I personally have, it is a great way of working. And just to give you some quick statistics about this project, with a date of review of July the 22nd of 2023, we are currently in version 21 of PyPinfo. The latest release is a little bit over a year old now, from June the 13th. The first release is from May the 13th. There is no Conda installation of this package. In the last 30 days to date, this PYPINFO package has been downloaded 423 times. It has 7 dependencies, and on GitHub it has 369 stars, 34 forks, 13 watchers, and 10 contributors. The source rank on libraries.io is 12. And now we are going to see how to install it, so you can start querying to get information about your favorite packages. Now we're going to see how to install PYPINFO. So the first step, the easy one, is to just do a pip install. And this will actually install the library. The problem with this is that we also need to connect it to the BigQuery database that holds the data. So, as an example, if we want to have information about a certain package, let's say pandas, we would do the following: PYPINFO pandas. But this is going to give us an error because the key is actually not set currently. So the first step is to create the BigQuery account. To do this, go to bigquery.cloud.google.com, and this should take you to a page that looks like this. If you're not familiar with it, or if this is the first time you're here, it might ask you, well, I am assuming though that you have a Google account with a Gmail and things like that. If not, you're going to have to create a Google account. I'm not going to cover that here. If you've never had a Google BigQuery account, you will probably have to click a couple boxes saying that you accept the terms and conditions, and that's how easy creating a Google BigQuery account is. Now what we really have to do is create a project. So in order to create a project, we need to click up here and then to the top right, new project. My project name will be PYPINFO. There is no organization. Okay, so now our project is created, and now we have to go to API and services. To do this, you click in the little burger menu to the top left and APIs and services. And we need to enable the APIs and services, so you click on there. And what we are interested in is the BigQuery API, so we click on it. And once that we are in this menu, we need to create new credentials. Our credentials will be application data, and we are not using this data with Compute Engine, Kubernetes Engine, etc. And we can click Next. For the account name, I'm going to use PYPINFO again. And as a description, I'm just gonna write that I needed to access PYPINFO, create, and continue. And we are done. So next we need to create a key. To do that, we go to IAM and admin. And once in IAM, we go to service accounts. And we can click on PYPINFO at PYPINFO / whatever you have here in the email section. And once that you are in this menu, you can click on the top little menu on keys. And once that you're on keys, you can add key, create new key. The format has to be JSON, and we can create. And here it will ask you to download the file, and so this is what I'm going to do and place it in a safe place in my computer. Okay, so I saved the key to my computer in a secure place. By the way, I'm going to be deleting this key at the end of this video. And now that we have created the key, we should be able to set PYPINFO up so we can start using it. So to do that, I am going to start by going to the directory where my JSON file is stored. This is actually not necessary, but it is so you can see. So I am in the PYPINFO test directory, and if I make an ls, you see that I have this JSON file in the current directory. So in order to activate PYPINFO, we need to use the auth parameter and the direction of the file, the JSON file we just created. And so now our credentials have been set successfully, and we can now test PYPINFO. So if you have this error, which is what happened to me in the first time I did it, but I wanted to show it to you, this is because you don't have the permissions for the project. You need to have the BigQuery.jobs.create permissions. So this is what we're going to do right now. And once that we do that, this query we just did should work. In order to have permission to query the database, we need to grant access to a new user, to a new principal. The principal name has to be the name of the address that was created before. So you remember my project, it's called PYPINFO. This is the address the project generated. It is important to use this one and not the principal one that we have already. And as role, we really have to make sure to use BigQuery and BigQuery job user, because this is what the message of error was displaying. And we click on save. And now we just need to try again. We do PYPINFO pandas. It takes some time, and as you can see, it works now. It is interesting to see that we generated almost 3 gigabytes of data. Pandas is quite a big library. If we query PYPINFO, we can see that since it is a way smaller library, we need less data, but still 1 gigabyte. So yes, you can probably be around 2 gigabytes of data per query. We are going to finish with some quick examples on how to use PYPINFO. And we're going to do this by using it on Jupyter Lab. So first thing we need to do if we want to use it in Jupyter Lab is actually import PYPINFO. And next we just have to type an exclamation mark and then write whatever we would write in the command line. In our case, PYPINFO. So this retrieved a result of 419 downloads of the PYPINFO library for the past 30 days. Now we're going to see a more complex example. The following query still calls PYPINFO, so this is the library we are calling. We pass the test parameter, so this is not actually going to query the database. Instead, when we pass the test parameter, we will get the SQL query printed in our notebook. The W option stands for where, as in where in SQL, and country code equals FR with single quotes. This is just an SQL piece of code that will be inserted. You will see that in a second. Limit 5, so this is also an SQL argument. Pandas is the query I'm looking for in this case. And then system and distro, so we will be looking or breaking our results by system, so either Linux or Windows or Mac, and distribution, so this will only be for Linux, right? Linux distributions. Let's see what this does. See, this created a SQL query for us, but it didn't actually query the database. So if we take the same query and we take the test parameter away, we get 5 results, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the total. This is what we stated with the limit 5 for the pandas library. So these are results only for the country of France. And we also get the system name, so Linux and Windows. Apparently there was no Mac OS. And the distribution, so Debian, Ubuntu, Amazon Linux. Windows doesn't have a distribution because that's a Linux center concept, and CentOS Linux. So we can see that this is mostly servers installing pandas. Okay, so this will be it for today. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video, and see you next week.